show is in honor of. It's a show for veterans, their families, and also for the general public. And today we have two special guests for you. Pete, would you like to introduce yourself and tell a little bit about your organization and your background?
Certainly. Thank you very much, Paul. My name is Pete Shiffman. I'm the board president of NAMI, New York City, Staten Island, and that stands for the National Alliance on Mental Illness. It's the leading grassroots organization in the United States. It was started in 1979 by a few ladies, moms, around a kitchen table in Wisconsin. And so today, NAMI nationally has about 600 affiliates, including state and local branches. The purpose of NAMI is to provide support, education, and awareness about mental health issues. Or back in my day, we used to just refer to as mental illness. But whatever we call it, it is what it is. So NAMI operates under the principles that all of us that run program or provide lessons or support group facilitator, we're all volunteers. We're all trained to the same standard, and all of us have some kind of lived experience that in that respect qualifies us to do what we do.
Okay.
Statistically, if you take a look, probably just about everybody listening or watching this right now is qualified to participate in some way, because we all have some kind of connection to mental health issues. So I'm a third generation Staten Islander. I'm married with 2 children, and I'm a registered nurse currently working as a nursing supervisor at South Beach Psych Center. I've been a nurse for 34 years, and I was a reservist in the Army Nurse Corps for 8 years at the beginning of the Desert Shield and then Desert Storm.
Thank you for your service.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. So NAMI has given me an opportunity to not only help my teenage daughter, which is the reason I first came to NAMI 13 years ago, but it's evolved into a situation where I'm comfortable as a peer, facilitating a support group for other peers. And that took me a long time to get there, because despite working in the field, it's a tough thing to sort of make yourself vulnerable and say, you know, I've got this going on. But when you find out that you're so not alone, there are so many people on a similar kind of journey, that's the point of change for me.
Well, thank you. Lynn.
Okay, hi. My name is Lynn Ferrante, and I am the executive director of NAMI, Staten Island, and we are the local affiliate of NAMI National, and we have opened up a lot of great programs for people that help. And the reason why NAMI works so well is because it's families helping families. That's what it's really about. There are no doctors in our support groups. There are no psychologists in our family-to-family classes. We try to teach the family skills on how to go about living with someone that has a mental illness. We try to teach the families that if they could understand about all the things that their loved one is going through, then this way, once they understand it, they have some more empathy, and then what happens is a dialogue changes inside the home, and it gives us a chance. Let me think. I came to NAMI in 1998. I had a son that was mentally ill at the age of 7, unfortunately, and he was on suicide check at the age of 9. So when you see a young person like that wanting to commit suicide, it's a whole new ball game. So I came to NAMI, and I went there trying to understand what was going on, and what I learned after the first meeting was that it wasn't about me, it was about him. And the more I understood about him and his mental illness, the better journey I could help him to live a better life. So that's how I got into NAMI, and I'll tell you about our programs.
Okay. Just one thing from me that I wanted to bring out is I had an experience I was a brigade commander in the reserves. I had a young captain. He was in his 30s. He had a stroke and basically lost quite a bit of his facilities. He was in the VA hospital in Maryland, and I checked in on him periodically, and the one time that I spoke to him on the phone, I just felt that he was going to kill himself. And when he hung up, I was able to call a hospital and my chaplain, and I basically ordered an E7, that's a sergeant first class who was an attendant at the hospital, that even if he had to break the guy's door down, he needed to get to that person. Mm-hmm. And my chaplain managed to contact the chaplain at the facility and worked pretty much simultaneously, and they found that he had taken pills and tried to kill himself in his room. And I found it a very stirring experience to me, because for a bit I debated, and I said, no, I really think this guy is going to do this. And I bring that out simply because sometimes you have to act. And I think in this case, it was very good that I did. So that was my experience, and that's why I'm still involved in suicide prevention at this point. So.
Right, well that's exactly, like we teach a class, and it's called Family to Family class. And it's an 8-week course, and each week is a different chapter. So we teach the families about medicine, we teach them about how to talk to the doctors, because there's a lot of issues with once your loved one is a certain age, the doctors do not want to talk to you. So we try to teach you tricks on how to go about it and to get the information across. And again, like if somebody's suicide, I remember my son was always suicide, talking about it, and you know what? If you have to beg them, I don't care what you say to them, but you have to let them know that you hear them. You don't have to have the families do not have to have all of the answers to fix it. The loved one that's going through changes, they want you to just hear them and to understand that they're in a lot of pain. And it's pain that we don't understand, but we could let them know that we do hear them, and what is it we could do for you? What is it we could do to make your day better? What is it you don't want us to do? You know, ask them the questions. You know, families have a bad habit of always trying to fix everything and come up with the answers. And through NAMI, we try to teach you that that does not work. So it's all about learning, and that's why this class is so great. So if we have a new class starting on May 8th, and it's going to be at Holy Rosary Parish Center. So I'm going to teach it with another lady, Paulette Hughes. And the families come in there crying, they're all upset. By the time they leave the 8 weeks, they actually have power, they have knowledge. And the more knowledge you have, the less fear you're going to have about mental illness.
Yep. And again, I think it's important to focus too on the symptoms and how to resolve those symptoms, or at least how to help that person overcome those symptoms that are really pressing at the time. And we're still, with veterans in particular, in the range of 20 a day killing themselves. To me, that's a phenomenal number when you think about how small the veteran population is and compared to the rest of the population of the country. But to me, it's unbelievable that we still have 20 a day managing to kill themselves. And a big group of those are people that have never gone to the VA or never been in a VA facility, which I tend to believe at least in the VA facility, when you're there, they're checking on you, making sure, or they can see the signs a little better, I think, than the civilian military than the civilian medical system. So that's my opinion only, but the numbers seem to bear it out. And 20 a day is still a phenomenal number of people killing themselves.
Well, that's why Pete and I agree on this fact that's why NAMI is such an important organization, because a lot of the veterans that do commit suicide, some of them, I mean, like, we don't know all the reasons behind it, but I know that they feel alone. And they feel that nobody understands what's going through. So by coming to NAMI, you get to share, the families get to share ideas with other family members that are going through it. And we try to give everybody options to try. And I think that if the families understood a little bit more about suicide and about what their loved one is going through, maybe we can make it a little easier for them instead of them feeling alone.
If there was a family out there who wanted to contact NAMI, how would they get in touch with you, and what would be the process for this?
On the internet, we are at NAMI-StatenIsland.org, all one word, NAMI Statenisland.org. We are also on Facebook and Instagram and wherever else, but at our website we have a calendar and we have a way to ask questions and get involved. That is one way, and in our office we have a phone number there, which is 718-477-1700, and that is our warm line in the NAMI office. But our primary email to get in touch is info@NAMI-StatenIsland.org.
Okay.
And also, a lot of families could call up and they could register for the family-to-family class, but we also have support groups, which Pete and I would like to tell you about.
Sure.
The support groups, we have one on Tuesday nights at Holy Rosary Parish Center, which is in person. Mm-hmm. And we have one on Zoom on Wednesday night that Pete runs with Patty Papaleo and Tanya.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 3 of them there. I run the one in person. We are opening up a new support group at the JCC on Wednesdays at 11 a.m. But the support group is where families help other families, because if somebody comes in for the first time and they say, I don't know what to do, this is happening at home, or they stay in their room, they never come out, they don't want to talk to the families, other families will say that happened to us too. And we learn not to put, and here is an option.
Yes.
So everyone that comes to our support groups, they learn different options and we keep trying. And our motto is, as long as you have options, you have hope. Okay. And then Pete runs the peer support group, which I would like you to tell them about.
Sure. Peer Connection support, recovery support group is just that. It's a peer-run group. There are no professional clinicians, and essentially we stick to the models of NAMI. And I can actually tell you some of the goals we have for this group, which are, we aim for better coping skills. We do find strength in sharing experiences, and we try not to judge anyone's pain as less than our own. We forgive ourselves and reject guilt, and really importantly, we embrace humor as healthy, because I know personally I've lost that ability to laugh sometimes, and actually Lynn has woken me up and said it's time to smile a little. So we accept we cannot solve every problem, and this is an important one, because problems can be so vast that we don't even know where to start. And we understand that mental health conditions are no one's fault and could be traumatic events. And so if I can have a moment to speak to your listeners about that. For me, it all started with communication. Communication I was very uncomfortable having. For instance, I would ask people, are you thinking about harming yourself? And why did I ask that? Because I was uncomfortable saying, Do you have any thoughts or plans of killing yourself?
Yep. You got to be blunt.
And I found out you don't just put an idea in a person's head. You don't put an idea in a person's head about suicide, about sexuality. There's a whole bunch of things that you're not going to break a person by asking directly what you want to ask. So communication for me was the first thing I had to work on.
Yep.
You know, and how to talk to a person without getting into an argument or a fight. And that takes a lot of practice, you know. So, and the other thing is that in some people, or at least in me, to be honest, I have thought sometimes that I'm very concerned about sharing with people. I'm not an imminent danger to myself or anyone else, but I would not want to be misconstrued as being so. And so the question is, where is there a forum you could discuss things that for a mandated reporter such as myself, this person might need to go in an ambulance? If that's absolutely not the case, but these are thoughts that you would like to discuss in a safe environment. I don't know the answer to that just yet, but I wanted to put it out there because it's apparently an issue a lot of people have. Whether it's because of my traveling companions' guilt and shame that I parked out in the parking lot, hopefully they stay out there, or whatever it is. I just want people to know that the world doesn't know what you're thinking, and your actions are your actions. Your thoughts are your thoughts. They're different.
Exactly, and don't you? I also find, which I'm sure that you agree with, is that a lot of families come to us and they have spoken to their family members that love them very much and their friends that love them very much, but those people have not walked the walk or talked the talk. So it's like my dad always said, if you have a plumbing problem, you don't go and talk to a carpenter. You go where you're supposed to go to get the answers. Yep. And when they come to us, they actually say, oh my goodness, you actually understand, you actually hear. I think these thoughts myself, and they know that they're safe. And now, by having a place to go, they don't have to extend their conversation at work. They don't have to go to a family gathering and extend it. They could start to live and just bring their issues to this one place, which is NAMI. Mm-hmm. Also, I think a lot of families feel that they're to blame. You cannot be blamed for what you don't know. So a lot of parents say, I shouldn't have yelled as much, I shouldn't have been drinking, I shouldn't have done. Maybe that didn't help, but it didn't cause mental illness. And this is what we have to try to get out to families, right? Mm-hmm. And we teach them also, say exactly what you mean, but do not say it means. So we give everybody a lot of skills, but
I want to go back to something you said, though. I think the thing that triggered me into a reaction was I specifically did ask this captain, are you thinking of killing yourself? Mm-hmm. And he said, yes. That was the trigger. So I think that's very important. You can't beat around the bush. If you really think this, people are more perceptive than they tend to believe, I think. And if you are getting that impression, you've got to ask the question. Mm-hmm. So that's been my experience. So.
Mm-hmm. And if I could just add
go right ahead.
And if that is the answer, from all my experience and training, the key is to keep talking. Keep talking to the person until you can get
when
something.
When he hung up, that was the real kicker to me. Then something's got to be done. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it may not be pleasant, but something has to be done.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that the more knowledge we get on how to approach people that are mentally ill and have all these ideas that they don't want to share because they're afraid somebody's going to lock them up, we have to get rid of all that stigma about mental health, and that's why NAMI tries to let them know that it's okay, we will work with you. And if you are going through where you feel you're going to hurt yourself, then then what we need to do is we need to try to help you get through this period, and hopefully you could come out on the other side.
Yep.
You know, and one of the big things true too, I found when my son got ill at 7. He's 31 now. He doesn't leave the house. There's no medicine that's really working for him, so we're not getting anywhere. But, you know, the fact is that we are like with him, and we hear what he has to say, and we hear the pain that he goes through, and we try to make the best for him that we can.
Yep. The other thought that I've had about is when you have a big transition, and to me one of the biggest transitions is when you leave the service. And I'll give you the background, my own experience with when I came off of active duty, and I had been deployed now for almost 2 years and 2 months. And I was deployed in Iraq. It was a very nasty place. It's not a place I would go on vacation. My requirement is places where people don't shoot at me. Mm-hmm. I was in Fort Bragg. I spent 5 days looking at slides and turning in gear, and I was back on the street in New York. To me, that is a horrible transition. I had high blood pressure. I did not like loud noises at all. I remember driving down 95 to visit my daughter in Virginia, and I felt very naked because there were no concrete walls on either side of me to protect me from IEDs. Yet we do this all the time with the military. We release people back to society after we've trained them to a certain peak, response peak, shall we say, and then we wonder why we have problems. There is a program out now called ETS, and that, to me, is a good program where you get a mentor to try to help you through the transition back to the society, shall we say. But if you think about it, let's see, the Army spent 5 months training me to be a medic. They spent probably 6 or 7 months teaching me to be an officer and to be a chemical officer. And they spent 5 days throwing me back onto the street. And then we wonder why we have difficulties. And just so you know, I've used this. I used to lobby for the Veterans of Foreign Wars, and I used that example down in the Congress and the Senate. And I think that's one of the reasons that you have a program now to try to help. But we don't prepare people for what's coming. And then we say, hey, do you look at the problems? The other thing that I've experienced is I was a court mentor for years, and my first 3 mentees, I had 2 with traumatic brain injuries that were undiagnosed, and 1 with probably the worst PTS I've ever seen, again, undiagnosed, out of the military into society. And why are they in court? It's probably because of that. So the military does a poor job, has done a poor job. Maybe this ETS sponsorship program will help some, but we do well training people to be soldiers. We don't do well training them to be civilians. Mm-hmm. So,
well, NAMI National has a program called the Home Front, and that is for veterans, and it's for the families. Like the families would take the family-to-family class first. Then they would go to training, and then they would get a group of veterans, like it's supposed to be for the caretaker of the veteran. And that will help the families understand their veteran better. So that would be geared to just them, which is separate than what we're doing in the different areas. But these items can help. And then if there's veterans that are doing better, NAMI could get them trained, and they could run their own veteran group with their own veterans to help the new guys. It's the same concept the way NAMI works. People come into our groups and they're all upset. They don't know what's happening to their family. And as time goes on, we end up teaching them skills. The people that are doing better, we teach them how we got there, and what works for you might not work for me. And we could do that with the veterans too. So, you know, it would be nice if the veterans could work more with NAMI, so we could open it up on Staten Island. I would love to see that. That's why we've been trying to hit a lot of the veteran posts on Staten Island to bring you guys into us.
My feeling is the veterans in general don't tend to reach out until they're already in a crisis. That's pretty much beaten into you in the military.
But I think mental illness, I don't think that people reach out until they're in crisis either.
But it's even worse so.
Yeah.
Military,
It's
we
built
tend to
in.
be worse. I would love to have more information on that, because Mr. Matthews here in Staten Island is running the ETS.
Yes.
So this would be a perfect link into that program, I think. And yeah, maybe we can get some who realize, right now we have one person on Staten Island who reached out and so far hasn't returned my calls, but I'm still trying. But he wants to transition, he wants help transitioning. So maybe we can get more and then build from there into a group here on Staten Island. I think that would be a good way to do it. But to me, that's where we get into the first issue with veterans coming back into society, because it is totally different. It's a different world, it's a different language. We don't even speak the same language in many cases. So it's a difficult time.
Well, you know what's good too? We started this info night at Rumsey. It's the second Wednesday of every month, and we have a different agency come and speak, and each agency is geared to help the families understand what's going on, to show what's going on. But May 10th, we actually have a lady coming, and she is a war veteran, and she has decided to get these houses that are broken down, and she's building them up, and it's only for veteran housing. And her first house is going to open up in Queens. NAMI is going to go and speak to make a presentation. She's going to come to Rumsey on May 10th, so we hope everybody will show up and learn. She's trying to have it where the veterans have a place to go for physical therapy, for care, for food, and then they could transition back into society. So it's a safe house, really. She has a lot to offer, so I hope everybody comes and listens to her.
So it's the National Alliance on Mental Illness, NAMI, New York City, Staten Island chapter. Our website is namistatenisland.org, all one word. Our main email is info@namistatenisland.org. And our office phone number is 718-477-1700.
We have learned that you're not going to fix mental illness, but you can learn to manage it. And if you bring your expectations down a little bit, I think that you could live a much healthier and, a deserving life, and everyone deserves a better life. Okay?
Again, the show is called In Honor Of. I'm very happy to have the folks from NAMI here today. Thank you very much for coming.